Most men think that disappearing means going silent, ignoring texts, ghosting social media, or physically avoiding her. They believe that by cutting communication, they're creating space for her to miss them. But that's only part of the truth. Disappearing effectively isn't about silence. It's about something far more powerful: emotional absence. When a woman can no longer feel you, sense your energy, or depend on your presence emotionally, that's when the real impact begins. That's when she starts to notice the void you left behind. You have to understand something fundamental. Women don't just miss your physical presence. They miss your emotional investment, the comfort of knowing you're still there, the security of feeling desired by you, the silent attention that you used to give without saying a word, the subtle way you made her feel important. These emotional cues, that's what she becomes addicted to. So when you disappear, but you're still checking her stories, still liking her posts, still texting good morning out of habit, you're not really gone. You're still feeding her emotional appetite. You're keeping the cord connected. And that's where most men fail. To truly disappear, right, you have to cut the emotional energy supply. No checking in. No watching from the sidelines. No casual conversations disguised as just being cool. That's emotional availability. And it keeps you in her orbit. Doesn't give her the space to feel your absence. And it definitely doesn't inspire her to come running back. If anything, it makes her feel like she still has access to you without having to commit, without having to earn you back. You have to be willing to create a vacuum, a space where your energy used to be. At first, she won't react. She might even pretend she doesn't care. She'll distract herself, talk to other people, maybe even post a few attention-seeking stories to get a reaction. But don't be fooled. That silence you give her is echoing louder in her mind than any words you could say. She starts to wonder, starts to replay the last conversation, starts to question if she mattered. Because when a man who used to give her presence, praise, and attention suddenly withdraws completely, it forces her to sit with the silence. And that silence becomes louder the more you withhold emotional energy. You see, women are incredibly intuitive. They don't need words to know how you feel. They can feel it through energy. That's why even when you say nothing, they know when you're still emotionally involved. They sense the attachment. So if you try to disappear, but your heart is still chasing her, she'll feel that. If you vanish, but you're still craving her validation, she'll feel that. And once she senses that energy, she knows she has control. The only way to shift the dynamic is to truly let go, not just physically, but emotionally. That means reclaiming your energy, redirecting it, reinforcing your sense of self. You stop thinking about what she's doing, who she's with, or whether she's thinking of you. You stop seeking closure, attention, or validation. You start investing that energy back into yourself, your goals, your purpose, your vision. Because when a man turns inward instead of reaching outward, he begins to rebuild. And when he rebuilds, his absence becomes a presence in her mind she can't shake. This is the part where it gets hard. Because emotional detachment doesn't happen overnight. It requires discipline. You'll be tempted to check in, to send that one text, to respond when she finally reaches out. But every time you give in, you weaken the impact of your absence. You show her that your emotions are still under her control, that you're still within reach. And as long as she feels that power, she has no reason to chase you. Women crave certainty after they've faced uncertainty. They value a man after they've felt the loss of him. But if she always knows you're there, if she always feels you emotionally orbiting her, she never has to fear losing you. She never has to reflect. She never has to miss you deeply enough to change. That's why disappearing, right, is a strategy. It's not a reaction. You're not doing it to get revenge or play games. You're doing it to reset the power dynamic. to remind her what life feels like without you in it. And this is where she begins to unravel. She doesn't understand why you haven't reached out, why you're not watching her stories, why you're not reacting to her breadcrumbs. She starts questioning whether you've moved on, whether you're entertaining someone new, whether you've stopped caring. And that uncertainty drives her wild because a man who was once predictable has now become a mystery. That's when her mind becomes your greatest ally, because women replay emotional experiences like loops. And if she can't access your energy anymore, she starts digging through memories trying to find you. She replays the way you used to look at her, the things you used to say, the way you used to show up. And all of a sudden, those same behaviors she may have taken for granted, they become gold. She starts missing the way you made her feel, but she won't admit it right away. She'll test the waters, maybe with a vague message, a random emoji, a song sent at midnight. Don't rush to respond. Let her feel the weight of your absence a little longer. Because here's the truth. The longer she goes without your emotional presence, the more intense her desire becomes. And when that desire reaches a boiling point, she won't just come back out of curiosity. She'll come back needing you, craving the connection she once felt but no longer has access to. Disappearing right is about control, not over her, but over yourself, over your urges, your need to explain, your need to be seen or validated. When you master emotional detachment, you become the rare man who cannot be manipulated, the man whose absence commands attention, and the man who never has to chase, because the moment you withdraw your presence with power, she'll be the one chasing yours. Disappear emotionally, and she won't just miss you. She'll feel your absence in her soul, and she'll come back begging to feel your presence again. When you disappear, most people assume you're doing nothing, that you're sulking, waiting, or hoping she comes back. But that's where men go wrong, because true disappearance isn't passive. It's powerful. It's a transformation in silence. When you walk away, you're not retreating. You're preparing. You're stepping into isolation, not to sulk, but to upgrade. And when you do it right, you don't just vanish. You reemerge as a man she no longer recognizes. And that unfamiliar version of you becomes the very thing she can't stop thinking about. Women don't obsess over men they feel they have figured out. They become obsessed with men who evolve, men who grow when they're not looking. See, when you're around all the time, when you're available, when you're predictable, there's no mystery. She knows who you are, what you'll say, how you'll react. There's no spark in that. There's no challenge. There's no depth. But when you disappear and use that silence to build, you start to change the game. You don't just disappear from her life. You disappear from her mental file of who you used to be. Most men walk away and remain exactly the same, still texting other girls to fill the void, still going out to get attention, still watching her every move, still stuck in the same habits, routines, and mindset. But when a man uses that time to reinvent himself, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, he becomes dangerous. He becomes unrecognizable. And that unrecognizability creates an emotional disruption in her mind. She starts asking questions. She starts comparing. She starts realizing that the man she left, or the man who used to chase her, no longer exists. That's power. Because now, instead of remembering you as the guy who waited for her, she sees someone different. Someone she has to figure out all over again. Someone who carries himself with a sharper edge, a calmer energy, a quieter confidence. She sees the glow up. Not just the physical glow up, but the energetic one. The one that radiates in how you speak, how you move, how you carry yourself. You don't have to say a word. The upgrade speaks for itself. You start showing up in places looking better, moving different, talking with more weight behind your words. You've been reading. You've been learning. You've been grinding. Your body looks stronger. Your energy feels more solid. Your goals are clearer. You're not seeking attention. You're commanding respect. And when she sees that, it shakes her. Because now she realizes she doesn't know this version of you. And people fear what they don't understand. They crave what they can't define. This is why transformation during absence is the most powerful move you can make. You're not just trying to get her back. You're making her feel left behind. And that feeling is far more compelling than any apology, message, or plan you could offer. Because now she's not just wondering if you miss her, she's wondering if you even see her anymore. That shift in energy makes her chase clarity. She starts to question everything. Was she wrong? Did she misjudge you? Did she lose a man who's now becoming everything she hoped for just too late? And here's the key. You don't upgrade for her. You don't do it so she comes running back. You do it because you finally see yourself as a man who deserves more discipline, more peace, more power, more progress. You build in silence because you're tired of being stagnant, because you're done being emotionally dependent on a woman's approval to feel worthy. You take that emotional energy you once gave to her and you turn it into fuel. Second, into fire, into focus. That's what makes it attractive. That's what makes her spiral, because she realizes she no longer has access to the man who once centered his world around her. She's watching you evolve without her. And that reality hits harder than any breakup. When a woman sees that your life is getting better in her absence, without bitterness, without drama, without the need to prove anything, it crushes her ego. It reminds her that she wasn't the prize, that you were, that maybe she was the one holding you back. Let other men chase, let them beg, let them prove. You move in silence and let your growth make the noise. That quiet transformation becomes louder than any speech. You don't explain, you become. And when she finally sees you again, whether in person, online, or through word of mouth, she won't be looking at the same man. She'll be looking at someone evolved. Someone who's outgrown her expectations. Someone who's elevated past her assumptions. And that's what brings her back. Not because she misses the old you, but because she realizes she can't figure out the new you. And curiosity is more addictive than closure. So disappear. But don't just disappear. Upgrade. Rebuild in the shadows. Grow in the silence. And when you return, don't look back. Let her feel what it's like to lose the man you've become. That's when she'll come back. Not for closure, not out of guilt, but because the version of you she knew has disappeared. And the one who replaced him is someone she can't stop thinking about. Most men don't understand the power of mystery. When a woman leaves, they either react with anger or drown her in explanations. They try to make her understand their worth by over-explaining it, by pleading their case, like a lawyer desperate for a verdict. But that energy never works, because once you start justifying yourself to someone who already made up her mind, you lose power, you lose ground. And most of all, you lose respect. When you walk away, how you walk matters. You can leave like a man who's broken, or you can disappear with quiet strength. No outburst, no last minute, let me just say one thing message. Just silence, stillness, space. That's what gets remembered. That's what lingers. If you storm out and make a scene, she gets closure. If you cry and beg, she gets clarity. But if you walk without a word, you give her nothing to hold on to. No explanation to hang on, no final image to soften the blow. And it's in that vacuum that the mystery begins. Mystery unsettles people, especially women who are used to your emotional presence. If she's expecting you to react, to blow up, to plead, and you don't, her entire narrative starts to collapse. She begins to question what she thought she knew. Because when a man leaves without bitterness, without chaos, and without begging for another chance, it says one thing: he knows his value. And a man who knows his value doesn't need to convince anyone to stay. He simply removes his presence and lets the silence do the work. You see, when you walk away with peace, you deny her the ability to label you. She can't put you in the box of the emotional wreck or the toxic guy or the weak one who couldn't handle it. She's left with unanswered questions. And that's what keeps you in her mind. Not your words, not your texts, not your explanations, but the unknown. The fact that you didn't explain yourself makes her need to figure you out. That's what starts the loop in her mind. Over and over, she replays your silence, trying to interpret it, decode it, understand it. Women are emotional detectives. They dig. They obsess over small details, old messages, moments they overlooked. And when a man disappears without giving them something to hold on to, they fill in the gaps themselves. They assume. They imagine. And that imagination becomes more powerful than anything you could have said. Because now you're no longer just a memory. You're a mystery. And a mystery man is unforgettable. Think about the men women chase in movies and stories in real life. They're not the ones who explained every feeling. They're not the ones who texted long paragraphs about how they were mistreated. They're the ones who carried themselves with calm, quiet control. The ones who vanished without noise and made women feel their absence like a weight. That's not by accident. That's power. That's restraint, and most men lack it. The truth is, she doesn't expect you to stay silent. She expects emotion. She expects reaction. Why? Because she wants proof that she still has control over you, that she still matters, that even in separation, she still occupies space in your mind. But when you remove yourself with calm detachment, you starve her ego. You deny her the final piece of emotional dominance. And that denial is exactly what triggers the chase. Now, silence isn't enough by itself. It has to be backed with substance. You don't just disappear, you evolve. You don't vanish out of weakness, but because you've chosen to pull your energy inward. And the silence only works if your past presence had weight. If you are a man of value, direction, and discipline, your absence will sting. She'll feel it. Not because you begged her to, but because what you brought into her life can't be easily replaced. But if you leave with bitterness, you become predictable. She'll know you're hurt. She'll know you're reacting. And once she sees your pain, she knows she still holds the power. Even if she says nothing, that knowledge satisfies her ego. You handed it to her. But when you leave with no bitterness, no final words, no attempt to change her mind, you leave her mind running. That's what works. Because every time she checks her phone and sees nothing, her curiosity grows. Every time she posts something to get your attention and you don't respond, her self-doubt creeps in. Every time she tries to move on and still feels the emptiness of your calm departure, she starts to question her decision. That's the effect of mystery. It doesn't demand attention. It pulls it in naturally. Understand this. Women are emotional creatures, but they also crave emotional clarity. When you don't give it to them, they feel unstable. And in that instability, they either block it out or they try to chase it down. They need closure. And when you don't give it, they keep the door open in their mind because they still want answers. That open door is what brings them back. Not because you forced it, but because you planted the seed of doubt, of curiosity, of mystery. So don't send the paragraph. Don't give the monologue. Don't try to control how she remembers you. Just walk away with calm energy and let your absence speak. Because silence, when done right, says everything. It says, I'm not bitter, I'm better. It says, I don't need you to understand me to validate who I am. It says, if you come back, it won't be because I chased you. It'll be because you couldn't ignore the void I left behind. That's the art of mystery. It's the emotional fingerprint that lingers long after you've gone. She might not show it. She might not say a word, but she feels it. she wonders, and eventually that wonder turns into a whisper that keeps repeating in her mind, why did he just walk away like that? That whisper grows louder over time. And eventually she'll come back, not because you asked, but because the mystery of your silence became too loud to ignore. When you disappear, there's something powerful that happens, not just in her mind, but in yours. You begin to reclaim your energy. You take back what was once scattered across text messages, late night calls, overanalyzing her words, replaying conversations, and wondering if she still cares. You stop chasing closure and start creating peace. That shift is subtle at first, but over time, it transforms you. And that transformation is what makes her feel your absence more than your presence ever did. Because she expected you to stay stuck on her. But when you disconnect, truly disconnect, she starts to feel the gravity of what she lost. See, emotional detachment doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've chosen not to let her decisions control your emotional state. It means you've stopped giving her the power to dictate how you feel about yourself, your path, and your future. And that quiet detachment is unnerving to someone who was used to you reacting, reaching out, or trying to win her back, because she expected emotion. She expected proof that she still meant something. But when that proof never comes, doubt creeps in. That doubt begins to eat away at her certainty. And here's the thing, most men don't understand how deeply their emotional energy was being drained until they step away. When you disappear, you're not just stepping away from her. You're stepping away from your need for her. You're stepping back into your own mind, your own power, your own drive. You realize how much of yourself you gave, maybe even lost, in trying to keep her around, and trying to keep her around, trying to get her to see your worth. But when you finally cut the cord and choose not to prove anything, you rise. And that rise is quiet but undeniable. You begin focusing on your body, your finances, your vision. You start working not out of pain but out of purpose. Not to show her what she missed, but to show yourself what you almost forgot you were capable of. That's what true growth is. Not performative, not reactive. Just real, grounded, undeniable self-mastery. You stop checking her page. You stop wondering who she's with. Because you realize something bigger, it doesn't matter anymore. That shift in mindset is rare, and women feel it. They can tell when a man is gone but still emotionally hooked, and they can tell when he's truly moved on. The energy is different. When you're emotionally detached, your actions change. You're no longer driven by wanting her to notice you. You're no longer operating from a place of scarcity. You're living with purpose, not proving. That's when she starts to notice. Because now you're not chasing and you're not performing, you're just moving forward with clarity, with fire. And that's what draws her back. Because women are emotional creatures. They connect to what they feel, and when the emotional tie breaks, not with bitterness or drama, but with calm detachment, it hits different. It lingers. It creates an emotional gap that's hard to fill. She might try to replace you. She might distract herself, but the weight of your new indifference starts pressing on her mind. She wonders, has he really let go? Has he really moved on? Does he not care at all? The more she asks those questions, the more curious she becomes. And curiosity is the spark that ignites obsession. She starts thinking about you more, not because you're trying to be remembered, but because you've made yourself unforgettable through silence, through absence, and through a shift in energy so clear that it speaks louder than anything you ever said. Because detachment doesn't mean pretending. It means you no longer invest in someone who made the choice to lose you. It means you're no longer emotionally available to be picked up and put down like an option. You're not angry, you're not bitter, you're just done. And that level of peace, that level of clarity, that level of self-respect, that is what makes her look back and realize she underestimated you. While she thought you'd spiral, you elevated. While she assumed you'd chase, you disappeared. Not to punish, not to manipulate, but because you realized that peace was more important than proving a point. That self-worth was more important than being chosen by someone who didn't see you clearly. That's power. That's discipline. That's what makes a man unforgettable. You have to understand something. Most people think walking away is weak, but disappearing with dignity is strength. Choosing silence over chaos is strength. Choosing growth over gossip is strength. Choosing detachment over reaction is strength. And strength doesn't beg. Strength doesn't chase. Strength doesn't send one last text. It rebuilds. It resets. It rises. And when you rise in silence, when you stop emotionally investing in her and start investing in yourself, you create a presence that's louder in your absence than it ever was in your presence. She'll feel that, not right away, but over time, when the noise fades and the tension wears off and the distractions lose their thrill, she'll feel that void, and the man she once thought she could walk away from becomes the man she now realizes she can't stop thinking about. That's the beauty of real detachment. It doesn't just protect you, it magnifies you. It makes you clearer, sharper, stronger. And the more you embrace that power, the less you even want her back, because you've outgrown the version of yourself who needed her. And that's when she comes back, not to who you were, but to the man she never expected you to become. That's how you disappear right.